Hello and welcome to this Blender tutorial brought to you by the Luwizart. My name is Emmanuel Okafo and I hope you guys are doing great. Today we'll be looking at creating a basic house inside Blender. So this will be really helpful for beginners and even intermediate users that are just looking to learn some nice tricks in creating architectural assets. The way I go about creating environments, architecture, and anything that has to interact with a large scene, I usually prefer to start working with scale. So I import my basic character and use the grid to scale it up like 6 feet and use that to eyeball the rest of the objects I will create along the way. So as you can see, I'm just trying to eyeball it and get the right position of the door because you want to avoid just going in and modeling, and once you've added like a lot of details you find out the scales are quite off. So as important as proportion is to character artists, scale is important to architectural artists. So now I'm just trying to eyeball the position of the door. This is not like the final door, just making sure that the whole scaling is appropriate before I start going into more details. So once I'm happy with everything and I feel that everything feels natural, then we can start modeling. I'm just using my eyes eyeball the reference, which I got off Google. So I think it's a SketchUp model. So this is just for practice. So to start modeling, I would just add a edge loop in the middle and just drag it upwards to create an illusion of roof and just scale it out a bit. So for this next step, we need to enable an add-on called Cover add-on. This add-on comes by default with Blender and it's really powerful and really helpful. So what the basic functionality of this add-on, it performs live Boolean in your 3D scene with nice interface. So to enable it, you just go to your preference by hitting F4 or going to edit and preference. So in your add-on section, you want to just search for Cover. And the add-on will show up and you can enable it if you don't have it enabled already, and you can save the preference. Now in your 3D view, if you hit Ctrl+Shift+S, a nice interface will pop up where you can see this nice orange. So looking at it, what you will see first is the difference. So you can switch between this different mode to get different effects. So we'll talk about that later. So what we want to focus mainly is the cut type. So by default it's set to rectangular, and that means like once I drag my cursor, this object you'll see it will cut a rectangular hole in it. So we have other cut types. So we have rectangular, we have lines, so we can switch it by hitting space, and that's indicated by this nice info here. So once we drag this, we can create line, and if we hit space, it's going to apply that line. So importantly, for architecture visualization or creating buildings, most times you don't want to just cut through the building. You usually just want to use this kind of cool add-on just to cut like a hole for doors without really going through the entire stuff. So the way to control that is using the cursor as a range limit. So for what I mean is, if I place the cursor here and we go back to the mode, so we want to use this cursor as the depth of the extrusion or the probably Boolean. So to switch that, we just, as the shortcut tells us or the info tells us, if we hit D, it's going to turn this on and we can just draw, and it's going to cut a hole and it's going to restrict it to the position of the 3D cursor. So that's basically it, and that's what we'll be needing for this tutorial. So from what we've just learned, we can use the Cover add-on to just drag out to create simple quick windows. Of course, looking at the reference and just quickly drawing it out. So now I'm just selecting those faces and I'm going to turn those faces to window to match the reference. So setting the origin to individuals, I'm just going to scale it up so I can scale everything in its own origin, and then insert it and then select those outer edges and extrude it. For the inner faces, I'm just going to separate it and make it its own separate mesh, and this can serve as window mesh. So using the same method, we'll be using the Cover add-on to just carve out the door position, and we're using the character as a nice reference to get a nice scale. And then we'll just grab the inner faces like we did for the windows, then make it its own mesh, And now what we want to do is extrude it a bit, just looking at the reference, extrude outwards, insert, and extrude inwards. That's how we'll just create that simple door. So for the roof, we'll first start with the structure. So for that, we'll select two edges and we'll be going procedural with this. So selecting those two edges will convert it from mesh to curve. And now we'll go to the curve parameter and just extrude it to be like flat like a wood. And this is just to give us more control over time, and we can tweak things along the way in case it's not looking so nice. Okay, so after that, we want to go to the modifier stack and then add the solidify modifier to give it more depth to feel more heavy. And now we'll just use the arrow modifier to replicate it along the y-axis. So for the roof itself, we'll just select the two top faces, then we'll make it its own mesh. All we just need to do with this is just scale it out and tweak it to match the roof structure. So we're doing this by selecting the outer edge and just sliding it with the local orientation turned on. So after that, for the side structure for the roof, same drill that we did for the main structure, we'll add an edge, make it a curved mesh, then extrude it slightly, and then we can add a solidifier modifier, and then we can just quickly tweak it to match what we have going here. So if you hold Ctrl T in the curve edit mode, you can tilt a curve, and that's what I did here. And with this, I can just drag it and everything's going to fit perfectly. So we're almost done with this now. And for the next step is for us to just refine it and make it feel even nicer. So we have bad topology now, and adding bevel modifier is not going to give us a nice result of right off the back. So I tried the angle bevel algorithm to use it, but it doesn't work. So the way I decided to use is actually to do it by hand. So I selected those edges that I need to have bevel, and then I'm going to apply a bevel weight in the edit mode, and that is going to enable me to use that as a factor to the modifier. So now I'm going to switch it from angle to weight, and you can see we have the effect going on, and I'm just going to increase the segments. So it's going to make those edges feel more rounded so it can catch more light and specularity. So I will do this for the rest, but it will not be so tedious for the rest because the other meshes are like procedural, so it automatically should work. So I'm done with adding the bevel, and I like how it's looking. Though this is a simple house, but it's a nice start, especially for if you're a beginner and just like trying to just get a basic understanding of how you can go about creating a simple building inside Blender. So right now I'm just prepping for a rough render that I'll use for the thumbnail. And yeah, so that will be it for this tutorial, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I pray that you guys stay safe and do your best to avoid any unforeseen issue that will come because of the crisis we are facing. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed so you can see more from me. Okay, so bye bye for now. See you next time.